Don't resist the restriction. When there's this tension, there might be an urge to rush because it feels uncomfortable where we are. But the more that you rush, the more that you are putting yourself in a position that's going to create greater conflict, potentially, than what you're already experiencing. Rather, if you just sit in the discomfort and allow whatever's coming up to come up, it's in that moment that you can eventually find peace. And through that peace, a restructuring of your identity, a restructuring of your past, a restructuring of how the world perceives you. Welcome to the Weekly Transit, your guide to understanding the current planetary and astral alignments. Together, we'll explore how to harness these cosmic frequencies, empowering you to reach your highest potential as you navigate the days ahead. I'm your host, Scott Tajarian. Welcome to the Weekly Transit. This is the week of June 16th to the 22nd. The theme of the week is Careful Cultivation, as we cover 8 transits this week, highlighted by Mars transiting into Virgo and the Sun transiting into Cancer. So another big week. Last week I think we covered 8 transits. That was Jupiter transiting into Cancer and the full moon in Sagittarius. The week before that, we had Mercury transiting into Cancer and Venus into Taurus. And this week it's the Sun in Cancer and Mars in Virgo. So a lot of shifting, a lot of movements. Very, very intense perhaps. I don't know. You tell me. How's life treating you out there? How's the world treating you? How is your reality right now? How's that feeling to you? I'm curious to hear. You can always comment on Spotify or YouTube, or reach out to me on Instagram or send me an email. Email is usually the easiest way to get a hold of me. That's what I check the most. But a lot of shifting. This June kind of feels like a pressure cooker. Feels like everything is kind of building, and then, in July it's gonna pop. What that means exactly, I don't know. And I'm not here to predict the future. I don't know what the future holds. But I do know what these planetary energies mean. And so I do my best to articulate the meanings behind these planets and signs to give you insight into how to navigate them to the best of your ability. This past week, we had Reagan Carruthers on the show discussing her book, Tragic Magic. I hope you enjoyed the conversation with Reagan. Such a interesting, fascinating story. She's lived a life. She has lived a life, and she shares all about it in Tragic Magic, a very inspiring book I encourage you to buy. Love talking with Reagan. The week before that was Lori Tatulian, the very funny Armenian comedian, woman, childhood companion of mine. I've known her since we were very young. And it was a lot of fun to reconnect with Lori and hear about her journey. So always trying to bring people on that have an interesting journey to share and insights, and then reflecting through the astrological code. It's like we go on the journey, we reflect their astrological code to see how their journey has been influenced by their astrological code. Of course, this week, I'm back on with Delisa Hawking, Tuesday, 3 p.m. on her YouTube channel, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. We're live on Delisa's YouTube discussing all the planetary alignments and what's going on in the world, the craziness of the world. So if you're into the news and what's happening out there, then we give that reflection through the planets and stars, and Delisa communing with her guides. She's a 5th generation psychic. So I hope you can join Delisa and I again this Tuesday at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. So Careful Cultivation is the theme of the week, June 16th to the 22nd. With 8 transits highlighted by Mars in Virgo and the Sun in Cancer. We begin with Mars in Virgo. That's the first transit of the week, and things kind of boil up before that transit even occurs, because right before Mars transits into Virgo, the moon is transiting through Aquarius, which is opposite the sign of Leo, which is the sign that's before Virgo, the sign that Mars is transiting through. So if you're new to astrology, Mars is the god of war. It's the planet of action, aggression, conflict, courage, confidence, authenticity. Mars is transiting through, to start the week, it's completing its transit through the fixed fire sign symbolized by the lion and ruled by the sun. Mars has been transiting through Leo since April 17th. So here we are on June 17th, 2 months later, and Mars is finally transiting out of Leo, which is quite a longer period. I mean, Mars was in Leo part of last year too. It had this retrograde going on where it transited into Leo and then back into Cancer and then into Leo again. So when Mars transited into Leo on April 17th, it wasn't moving as quickly as it normally does. So that's why Mars spent 2 months in Leo when it typically spends about 6 weeks in a sign. But as Mars transits out of Leo into Virgo, it opposes the moon in Aquarius. That's Monday morning. So the god of war opposing the moon. The moon is the planet of emotions. The god of war opposing the planet of emotions. The planet of emotions is in the fixed air sign symbolized by the water bearer, Aquarius, which represents the community. So this final push of Mars in Leo is almost like your heart is being driven towards what it desires, what brings it joy. But then the emotions of the group, the club, the organization, the community, society is pressing back against you. It feels like even though you have this power to really go after what you want, somehow the structures of society are holding you back in some way. Just one interpretation. Both of these are squaring off with Uranus in Taurus, which is an aspect that we talked about last week when Mars was squaring Uranus in Taurus. So Uranus is the planet of revolution, rebellion, innovation, independence, the unexpected, transiting through Taurus, which is the sign that represents your values. So your values may feel like they're going through an overhaul based on what is provided by the community or the group construct, which is creating tension within your heart. What you desire, what you enjoy, what's fun for you. That's Monday. Oof. Could be bumpy starting the week on Monday. It's right around sometime between 1 and 2 a.m. on Tuesday morning. That's Pacific Daylight Savings Time is when Mars transits into Virgo. That's a dramatic shift in frequency. We go from that bold expression of the lion to the modest, humble expression of the Virgin. Virgo is mutable earth. It's symbolized by the Virgin and ruled by Mercury, the planet of the mind. So this is where careful comes in to play in the theme of careful cultivation, because Mars in Virgo is about methodical planning and attention to detail. This isn't like coming out onto the stage and saying, "Hey everyone, here I am, look at me, yeah!" That's Mars in Leo. Mars in Virgo enters quietly from the background. Doesn't say a word, but is taking note of everything around it. Oh, I see that over there. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I see that. Yep. Oh, I see they missed that. Yep. So as you're methodically planning and paying attention to every little nuanced detail, you become discerning about what truly needs attention versus what can wait. What truly needs your attention versus what can wait. When you discern what truly needs your attention, this can help you perfect your techniques on whatever needs attention and refine your approach to whatever it is you're working on. This is about quality over quantity in all areas of your life. Having an analytical assessment of what's working and what's not working. Because when Mars was transiting through Leo, it's just about that big expression of the heart. It's like, yeah, Leo, okay, I'm the star. This is what's fun for me. I don't care what, if it's good, bad, whatever, if it's messy. I just want to play. Virgo is about tidying that all up now. So Mars in Virgo is taking the joyful expression of your heart and putting it into a manageable organizational structure, so that having fun has practical purpose. It's not about forgetting the fun. Virgo builds upon Leo. This is the beauty of the language of astrology. One sign does not forget the previous sign, rather it builds on that sign. One sign begets the next sign. In order to determine what is truly worth working on, you need to be clear about what you enjoy. So Virgo is the work and Leo is the joy. So what have you been enjoying since April 17th that now you're like, okay, how can I make this a part of my practical daily existence? How can I make this a part of my work? I really enjoy fill in the blank, especially over the last couple months, but I can't just keep playing like a child. I need to bring this joy into reality, into practical reality. How does it make sense in terms of my daily life? How is it affecting my health, my diet, my routine? Mars in Virgo is really driving us to pay attention to our health and diet. Driving you to pay attention to what you're putting into your body and how it's affecting your mind, and what you're putting into your mind and how it's affecting your body. This might be a good time to do a cleanse, or to start a new exercise routine and regiment. It's about perfecting the body. Mars transits through Virgo from June 17th to August 6th. June 17th to August 6th. The last time Mars transited through Virgo was July 11th to August 27th, 2023. The time before that was July 29th to September 14th, 2021. And the time before that was August 17th to October 3rd, 2019. So Mars is rolling through Virgo in the odd years. Every couple of years is when Mars transits through Virgo. So what was going on for you July 10th to August 27th, 2023, July 29th to September 14th, 2021, August 17th to October 3rd, 2019? What was happening in your life then? Check your IG posts, your text messages, your photographs, your calendar, your emails. That'll give you some insight into what may be in store for you this time around as Mars transits through Virgo. If you were born with key astrological points or planets in Gemini or Sagittarius, you may be feeling the crunch June 17th to August 6th. Because when Mars squares those planets as Virgo squares Gemini and Sagittarius, it might bring about some rage, some anger, some frustration. You were born with the moon in Sagittarius at 10 degrees. When Mars in Virgo hits 8, 9, 10, 11 degrees, there might be an emotional outburst. You were born with Venus at 13 degrees in Gemini. When Mars hits 11, 12, 13, 14 degrees in Gemini, your relationships might be blowing up at that point. There might be conflict and tension in your relationships. I don't tell you this to concern you. I tell you this so that you can be prepared. And in that preparation, it's not to worry. Worry is not preparing. When you're aware that something's coming up, then you're going to be more mindful. You're going to be more conscious. And when a potential conflict arises, you're going to be able to navigate that, hopefully, in a manner that's more effective for you and whoever the conflict is with. Through the conflict, you're always being drawn back to your North Node. You're being redirected to your North Node. So where is your North Node? Do you know the frequency of your North Node? Do you know what it means to develop that frequency within your daily waking life? If you're curious to learn more about your North Node, or if you're curious to learn more about Mars and its transit through Virgo and how that may be affecting you directly, I encourage you to contact me for a reading at theweeklytransit.com. The second transit of the week involves the Sun, the giver of light, life, and vitality, transiting through Gemini, Sextile Chiron in Aries. So Gemini is the mutable air sign symbolized by the twins, forming a sextile, a supportive aspect with Chiron, the wound and the ancient wisdom which is unlocked through healing that wound, in the cardinal fire sign symbolized by the ram and ruled by Mars, Aries. So the Sun in Gemini, Sextile Chiron in Aries. This transit is occurring Saturday to Wednesday, June 14th to the 18th, with the exact sextile occurring the same day that Mars transits into Virgo. Tuesday, June 17th. I should have said that earlier. Interesting how Mars is transiting into Virgo on Tur, which is Tuesday, named for Tur, which is the Old Norse god associated with the Roman god Mars. For the Spanish friends, Martes is Tuesday. Marte is Mars. So you can see Tuesday is the day of Mars. So on the day of Mars, Mars is transiting into Virgo, while the Sun in Gemini forms a sextile with Chiron in the sign that's ruled by Mars, Aries. So the Sun in Gemini, sextile Chiron in Aries, is bringing greater conscious awareness to our fears and insecurities. What are you afraid of? What are you afraid of? We all have fears. Do you have the courage to face them? Do you have the courage to be curious about these fears? What's at the root of these fears? Where they stem from? Are you open to having conversations with other people about their fears? Are those that are in your life people that you feel comfortable sharing your fears with? When you think of Mars transiting into Virgo, the same day that the Sun in Gemini forms a sextile with Chiron in Aries, maybe some of those fears are centered around health, diet, your work life. Maybe you notice that you're trying to rush because you're afraid. And Mars in Virgo is encouraging you to slow down and really pay attention to all the ins and outs, the details of your life. Saturday to Wednesday, be curious about your fears, your insecurities. The third transit of the week also involves the Sun in Gemini squaring the Moon in Pisces. This is the half moon, which occurs on Wednesday, June 18th. Wednesday is Woden's Day, the Old Norse god associated with the Roman god Mercury. The Sun transits through Gemini, the sign that's ruled by Mercury. Mercury rules Virgo and Gemini, squaring the Moon, the planet of emotions, in the mutable water sign symbolized by the fish, Pisces. This happens around 12:18 p.m. Pacific Daylight Savings Time, Wednesday, June 18th, bringing that tension between the conscious and the unconscious. So as you're asking yourself, what am I afraid of? What am I afraid of? What am I afraid of? On Tuesday, by Wednesday, you start to get those answers. They bubble up from the unconscious, and maybe it makes things quite uncomfortable. Maybe fears are thrown into your face that you're like, oh God, I am afraid of that. Jeez, I don't want to be afraid of that, but I have to admit I'm afraid of that. And through that fear, can you show yourself conscious compassion? Conscious compassion in recognizing that, yes, that fear is real. This is something that I'm honestly ashamed that I'm afraid of this. I'm embarrassed. Or maybe you're blaming yourself for having that fear to begin with. So take it easy on yourself on Wednesday when the Sun is squaring the Moon. That's a point of tension. So if you're experiencing tension in your life on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, it's that lead up to the Sun squaring the Moon. The fourth transit of the week is a longer transit, which involves Jupiter and Neptune. Last week we talked about Jupiter in Cancer squaring Saturn in Aries, which is lasting basically all month of June, which is part of why June feels like a pressure cooker. And we get into that deeper in the last episode. If you missed it, go back and listen. But the planet of restriction squaring off with the planet of expansion, Saturn and Jupiter, creating that pressure frequency. Well, adding to that pressure cooker is Jupiter in Cancer forming a square with Neptune in Aries. Jupiter and Neptune are the two planetary rulers of Pisces, so they involve the unconscious. Jupiter is the god of thunder, lord of justice, the planet of luck and expansion. Neptune is the god of fresh water and the sea, the planet of illusion, deception, compassion, and intuition. Cancer is the cardinal water sign, symbolized by the crab, ruled by the moon. It's the sign that represents the emotions, the past, your home. Aries is the sign that represents the self. So Neptune transiting through Aries is reimagining who we are. Maybe you're losing faith in yourself during this period. Thinking of Saturn there as well, it's you lose faith in yourself because you need to take responsibility for yourself. Are you taking responsibility for yourself? When you take responsibility for yourself, you're able to reimagine who you are in the context of who you actually want to be. Now, the squaring off with Jupiter in Cancer is forcing us to take an expanded look at our past. So we want to reimagine the dream of who we are by taking responsibility for ourselves. And we look back at the past and you're like, I can't do that. That's not me. I've never been that person. Nobody's going to accept me as this. But the squaring of Jupiter with Neptune and Saturn is saying, nah, you got to face it. Aries rules the face. So you got to face it. You got to face your past, and you got to see how your past has influenced or impacted your psyche. Last week, the theme was change the algorithm. You can't change the algorithm if your psyche is not changed. In order to change the algorithm, you have to change your psyche. In order to change your psyche, you've got to reflect upon the past. Jupiter's the planet of honesty. Are you being honest about your past? There might be issues in your past that are coming up where you're like, no, I never did that. Nope. That wasn't me. Nope. Shove it deeper down. Never happened. Deny. But this transit, which is happening all month, Jupiter is squaring Saturn. What did we say last week? It was from June 9th to June 21st. Well, it's squaring Neptune from June 9th to the 27th. That's when it's most concentrated. It's going to continue after that. Same for Saturn, but that's when it's most intense. The exact square of Jupiter in Cancer and Neptune in Aries is Wednesday, June 18th. So can you be honest about your past? And in being honest about your past, can you be compassionate with yourself? This is part of, going back to the sun squaring Chiron. It's like, do you have the courage to really be conscious of your fears? Your fears and insecurities are rooted in your past experiences. They didn't just come out of the blue. So what is coming up for you? Do you have the courage to be conscious of your fears? Do you have the ability to be honest about your past? So you can take responsibility for who you are and reimagine the dream. So that the dream is no longer a nightmare and instead is a fantasy. Because that's what you deserve. You deserve what you desire. You deserve your fantasy. But in order to receive the fantasy, you have to take responsibility for who you are. In order to take responsibility for who you are, you have to be willing to face your fears and insecurities. In order to face your fears and insecurities and be conscious of them, you need to reflect upon your past. And it's not just the past of your life, but it's your whole family. All the roots of the tree, your ancestors, your bloodline. Dig deep. Go back there. The fifth transit of the week, supporting this Cancer frequency, is the sun. The giver of light, life, and vitality, transiting into Cancer, as it does every year around June 20th, 21st to July 22nd, depending on when and where you are in the world. This year, in the Pacific Daylight Savings Time Zone. The sun is transiting through Cancer from June 20th to the 22nd. So this is where the cultivation comes into the careful cultivation. Careful is Mars in Virgo. Cultivation is the sun in Cancer. It's nurturing growth in relationships, home, and your personal well-being. How are you taking care of yourself? Mars transiting through Virgo is about taking action to acting towards taking care of your health and diet. The sun is bringing that vitality to nurturing yourself, creating conditions for emotional security so that your emotions can flourish and feel safe. Honoring natural cycles and rhythms. That's nurturing. When you're tired, sleep. When you're hungry, eat. When you're not tired, be awake. Honor natural cycles and rhythms. Protect vulnerable new growth. There's a lot of shifting happening right now. And with these planets moving into new signs, like 2 weeks ago, Mercury and Venus, Mercury in Cancer, Venus in Taurus. Last week, Jupiter in Cancer. This week, Mars in Virgo, the sun in Cancer. There's a lot of new growth. And these aspects with Jupiter and Saturn and Neptune is helping facilitate that new growth. Where you're able to take an expanded look at your past and then take a look back at the present and say, who I was back then is not who I want to be today. Okay, well, this is a great time to nurture yourself into that new you. Invest in long-term foundations rather than quick fixes. So the overall theme of careful cultivation is about developing healthy daily routines that support your emotional well-being. If you're not eating right, if you're not taking care of yourself, then your emotions are going to be dysregulated all over the map. When your emotions are regulated and serene or balanced or peaceful, then you have the ability to tend to your family relationships with both boundaries and love. Boundaries in terms of this is who I am now. You may not recognize who I am because I've changed. My personality has shifted. Maybe even I look different. But I still love you. I'm just not going to fall back into those habitual patterns that drag us down. Create organized, nurturing environments at home. It's a good time to clean the house. Get rid of things. Really decide what you need and what you don't need, what you can give away. And if you're not using it, maybe somebody else out there can use it. Donate it to the Goodwill. Put it on the sidewalk. Sell it on OfferUp or eBay or whatever, Craigslist. As you get rid and you get rid of things and you reorganize your home, it'll give you the space to approach personal growth with both gentleness and discipline. This is about building security through small, consistent actions rather than dramatic changes. Careful cultivation reminds us that the most profound transformations often happen through sustained, loving attention to the details that matter most. If you were born with key astrological points or planets in Aries or Libra, Cancer season can be difficult because Cancer, cardinal water, squares Aries, cardinal fire, and Libra, cardinal air. There's tension there. So if you were born with Saturn in Libra or Aries, this might, whenever that is, like if Saturn's at 17 degrees in Libra, when the sun gets to 15, 16, 17, 18 degrees in Cancer, you may need to shut it down. And that might be a time where you are nurturing yourself. You are cleansing yourself. You are taking care of yourself. You are being more responsible for yourself. The sixth transit of the week, Mercury in Cancer forms a trine, a supportive aspect with the North Node in Pisces. This aspect occurs from Thursday to Sunday, June 19th to the 22nd, with the exact trine occurring on Saturday, June 21st. So again, that Cancer frequency. Mercury in Cancer, bringing that conscious awareness to your past, forming a trine with the North Node in Pisces. The North Node is the soul's purpose, the karmic pathway of the soul. Trine is the supportive aspect, and it's supportive because Cancer is cardinal water, Pisces is mutable water. So they're both water, they make a strong connection to each other. That's the support. This is supporting you to take a conscious look at your past and see how your past has influenced your psyche, your unconscious. Oh yeah, my dad did do that. Now I'm doing that too. Do I like that I'm doing that? No. Okay, then I need to be more conscious about that behavior so that I don't follow down the path that he was on. No disrespect to him or anyone else in my family, but that frequency doesn't work for me. It's not healthy for me. As you reflect upon the past, you may come across memories where you're not so proud of yourself, that bring up feelings of guilt, shame, regret, or blame. Whenever those feelings arise, show yourself compassion so you can integrate those thought patterns and memories with understanding, forgiveness, and love for yourself. The seventh transit of the week, the sun continues through Cancer and forms that square with Saturn in Aries. This is the very end of the week, June 20th to the 23rd, Friday to Monday, with the exact square occurring on Sunday, June 22nd. So there are some hard realities that may come to light the end of the week. Hard realities about your past, your family, your home life. You may feel broken down or shut down. You may need to recalibrate, slow down, reflect, so you can take responsibility for who you are, who you were, who you want to be. In order to step forward, I need to reconcile the past. And when the Sun in Cancer squares Saturn in Aries, there's issues of the past in relation to you that may arise. It may be difficult to be consciously aware of. It's like, oh, I didn't want to think about that. Yeah, well, there's still work to be done there. Because I haven't forgiven myself for that yet. And I need to. Don't resist the restriction. When there's this tension, there might be an urge to rush because it feels uncomfortable where we are. But the more that you rush, the more that you are putting yourself in a position that's going to create greater conflict, potentially, than what you're already experiencing. Rather, if you just sit in the discomfort and allow whatever's coming up to come up, it's in that moment that you can eventually find peace. And through that peace, a restructuring of your identity, a restructuring of your past, a restructuring of how the world perceives you. The final transit of the week involves Mars and Jupiter. So, busy week for Mars, the Sun, and Jupiter. We've got Mars in 1, 2 transits. We've got Jupiter in 1, 2 transits, and then the Sun in 1, 2, 3, 4 transits. Mercury's in... Oh, Mercury's only in 1 transit. Okay, cool. So yeah, it's the Sun, Mars, and Jupiter this week. So as Mars transits through Virgo, the first aspect that it makes is with Jupiter in Cancer. This is a supportive aspect, a sextile, which occurs Tuesday to next Wednesday. So June 17th to the 25th, with the exact sextile occurring on Sunday, June 22nd. So the Sun in Cancer aligns with Saturn in Aries on Sunday, the day of the Sun, while Mercury in Virgo forms a sextile with Jupiter in Cancer. So one stressful aspect and one supportive aspect. The stressful aspect is urging us to delve into our past, to take responsibility for who we were, so that we can restructure who we want to be moving forward in the here and now, in a way where we feel more kind to ourselves and kind to others. Mars in Virgo, forming a sextile to Jupiter in Cancer, is giving us more of that detailed look at our past, where it's like maybe we have the courage to go back there and take responsibility for some things, but we need to get into the nitty-gritty. The nuances. Why did I do that? What was going on there? All for the purpose to help you make sense of your past so that you can heal and reconcile the past. When I was a kid, I'm sure I talked about this before on the podcast, but I was 10 years old and I lost my finger. The tip of my finger, my ring finger, left hand, is gone. Got severed in a door. A really thick wooden door with sharp edges at the First Presbyterian Church in Sanger, California. My parents had just become members there. They were at a Bible study. It was a Tuesday night, I believe, if memory serves, the day of Mars. So of course something violent were to happen to me on a Tuesday. All of us kids were playing in this one room, the kids of all the parents who were in their Bible study, playing in this one room. I'm 10, so it's a bunch of, I don't know, 4, 5 to 12-year-old kids. Maybe there's 24 of us. It seemed like a wild bunch, just imagine like kids screaming, yelling, and they tell the kids, you got to stay in this room. And there's this one high school girl who is the babysitter. She's the one who's looking after all these kids. Maybe it was just a dozen, but kids are big, like the energy's huge. So it seemed like a lot. And as soon as they said we had to stay in this room, well, we had to leave. Because if the adults are saying stay here, then no, we got to do the other thing. And there's this big church to explore. So fun, so exciting. So my friend and I run out of the room. And me, for some reason, reach back to close the door. Why did I even care to close the door? Like, who cares? But I guess I have a caring nature. And so even though I was being rebellious and bad and not doing what my elders had told me to do, I still wanted to be respectful to the door and the other people there, and I wanted to close the door. Or maybe I just wanted to shut the door so that the babysitter wouldn't come after us or know that we had gone. Either way, I put my hand back without looking, reaching in what I thought was for the knob, and instead put my hand in the hinge. And some other kid slammed the door shut. I immediately felt an ow and an uh-oh. I grabbed my finger and I saw blood coming through my hand. I was like, oh, this is worse than what I thought. I opened my hand, I looked, and there was the bone. The tip of my finger was gone. I tell this story because this story is an example of making peace with your past. For years, I used to want to be a musician. Not that I ever, took lessons or anything like that. I took piano lessons for a number of years, but I taught myself how to play guitar, just like I taught myself astrology. And I always thought, all those years where I was thinking like, I want to be a musician, a rock star. I would think like, if you weren't such an idiot and get your finger chopped off, maybe you'd be a better guitar player, because that's the hand. Like, people are always like, well, Jerry Garcia, he's missing the tip of his finger. Yeah, on his other hand, not the hand where he's pressing down on the strings, which is where I was missing. But then, Django Reinhardt, I think, only had use of like a couple of his fingers because he had, got caught in the fire and burned part of his hand. I think his ring and pinky fingers were kind of stuck together. But I used to like to make that excuse for myself that I would have been a better guitar player if I wasn't so dumb and getting my finger chopped off at 10 years old. Because it always really hurt to press that finger, that nubbed finger on a string. It was hard to do. So I really kind of only played with like 3 fingers. So I used to beat myself up about that a lot. Having the courage to face the past, to take responsibility for your past. But then getting into the details of the past, I started to think, initially what happened when I got my finger cut off, like to finish the story, like I went to the bathroom. The sweet high school girl was like, "Oh my God, go to the girls' bathroom. The cold water is better there. There's not cold water in the guys' bathroom." Like, why do I remember that? And how would she know that? But that's what she said. So I went in the girls' bathroom. I just started washing my finger, my severed finger, with water, cold water in the girls' bathroom. She ran and grabbed my mom. My mom comes, "Oh my God." They look, where's the finger? Where's the finger? They find the finger stuck to the hinge, the tip. Somebody grabs a cup of ice, puts it in a styrofoam cup, puts the finger in the cup. They rush me to the Sanger Hospital. We go to the Sanger Hospital. They're like, what are we going to do with this? It's a small town. Like they didn't know how to reattach that. So we got to go to Valley Children's Hospital. My dad's just like rushing through red lights. My mom is in the back singing hymns, praying for me, like in the back of the car. I'm with her. My dad's running red lights on the way there. We get to the hospital. They finally get me in. And they said, yeah, we can reattach it, but it's so close to the joint that you may never be able to bend it again at that first joint. And so I thought about my cousin, who ironically had another even worse, more horrific accident when he was 12 years old. He grew up out in the country on a cattle ranch, and his dad had found some sort of metal contraption, brought it up to the house, stuck it in the grass, had lunch, went back out to the ranch, riding around the horse, rounding up the cattle, while my 12-year-old cousin was by himself in his house. He looked out the window and saw this shiny thing in the grass. "What's that?" he said. Goes out there, curious, pulls it out of the ground, looks at it, puts it back into the ground, and it detonates in his hand. Blows off the tip of his ring finger on his right hand. He's left-handed, I'm right-handed. I'm missing the tip on my left hand. He's missing the tip on his right hand. Blew off the skin, the palm of his hand. They had to graft skin from his foot to put on his hand and skin from his butt to put on his foot. He ran into the house, called 911. They flew a helicopter. He lives in the middle of nowhere. They flew a helicopter, picked him up, took him to the hospital. And so I wanted to be just like my cousin. So I was like, leave the finger off. So again, that guilt too, because I look at this finger and it can still bend a little bit. I was like, why didn't I have them reattach it? And why didn't my parents say, no, you're reattaching that? Because I was like, Jack's finger's missing. I'm going to do that too. All the details. My connection to my cousin. And then blaming myself. The martyrdom that I didn't listen to my elders and now God was punishing me. God was punishing me. Later in life, I began to think, like, why did I put that hand back? Why didn't I put my other hand back? And then it dawned on me, oh yeah, my bedroom door growing up, the doorknob was on the left side. I would close the door with my left hand. So instinctually, that's what I did. Because my bedroom, the door was on the left side. But in the church, the door handle was on the right side, so I put my hand in the hinge. It was like a perfect storm. But now I can look back and say, it's okay. It's all what was meant to be. I'm not blaming myself. I don't think God punished me. I'm not blaming my parents for them not telling the doctor to leave my finger on. Not blaming them for letting a 10-year-old make a decision about his finger. I don't blame the kid who slammed the door shut on my finger. It's all part of the divine chaos of life. And I'm very grateful for that experience. Because right now I get to share it with you. And I get to share it in the context of understanding how to go back and reflect upon your past. Those traumatic moments. And getting into the details. Really understanding where you're maybe holding punishment over yourself or others for what happened to you. And through that, hopefully finding forgiveness for yourself and others by taking responsibility for yourself in this life right now. You are responsible. You are responsible for this moment. And even though as a child, your parents are responsible for you, you can't allow the moments of your childhood to weigh over you today in the manner where you're not taking responsibility for yourself now. You have to take responsibility for yourself now. And the first step is nurturing yourself in the past. So I love little Scott, 10-year-old Scott, putting his hand in that door. Poor kid. Oh, man. And my poor mom and dad, their fear. Their fear. And the other little boy who slammed the door. And the girl who was watching us. Having compassion for all of them. Empathy for all of them. I hope this helps you on your journey to your past. And I hope it gives you the courage to take responsibility for yourself so that you can elevate yourself to that next level of greater confidence, courage, and authenticity, as is the reward with Saturn in Aries. And this unique opportunity to reflect upon the past with Jupiter in Cancer aligning with Saturn in Aries and Neptune in Aries, which is helping us dig into our unconscious. I hope this is all helpful to you on your journey through the week, and I'll look forward to reconnecting with you next week. Thank you for listening to the weekly transit. If you're curious to learn how these transits or any other transits may be affecting you, or if you're interested in learning more about your astrological code, contact me for a reading at theweeklytransit.com. This episode was produced by me, Scott Tajarian. Music written by Ben Leinbach from Listen Deep by Amber Herzog Lyman. Wishing you all the best as you ride the planetary waves.